You've been waiting all day for this, haven't you?
Today we're going to be doing a Blu-ray unboxing and movie review on the Venture Brothers finale, Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart. This is the second in a lineup of Adult Swim straight-to-Blu-ray movies serving as a conclusive end to the Venture Brothers TV show, and as many know, the original series was unfortunately cancelled before Season 8 could happen, and so, with the show itself technically ending on a cliffhanger, all answers to the existing plot threads and more should hopefully be neatly wrapped up in this special. And coming off the Season 7 finale, I have very high expectations going into this film blind, where a satisfactory conclusion is really what I'm hoping for. At the very least, I'm sure the creators, with how much of a passion project this appears to be, I am sure the creators will over-deliver, and I'm sure there will be plenty of content to enjoy from this. And adding to this, similar to the release of Aqua Teen Forever Plantasm, there is an exclusive poster of the movie poster included, which is a neat touch. There's the spine, and the back cover, brief synopsis of the movie, and thankfully some bonus features. We have Hodgman and Friends, creator commentary, which I'm very much looking forward to checking out, and answering fan questions from the show creators. There is the spec of the Blu-ray set, and we have the R rating from the US there for language, some sexual references, bloody images, and brief full nudity, and the movie itself is 84 minutes long. Here's the Blu-ray set without the slipcover, which, as expected, it is exactly the same as far as the overall cover design goes. And opening this up, we have the single Blu-ray disc for the movie, and the redemption there for the digital code, which by all means, first come, first served if you want to go ahead and grab that. The poster is overall a great inclusion. I love the cover art for this, so having a much larger print is very much appreciated. Only issue you'll have is when trying to display this, the amount of folds. No matter what, those folds will still be visible, but that doesn't take away from the incredible design of the artwork.
A few moments later.
Well, I finished the movie a few days ago, and I cannot believe it's over, that this is the end. Having binged through the entire show just before the movie became available, I think it's fair to say I got pretty attached to these characters. They all made a lasting impression, and the series will definitely stay with me for a very long time. And looking at the movie, Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart, this is a satisfactory conclusion overall. It really tries hard to wrap up the existing plot threads, leaving a few elements open, and seeing the original cast return and having most of the named characters featured throughout also helps to really reinforce just how final this movie is supposed to be. I would term this project as really a love letter to the fans. Both creators Doc Hammer and Jackson Public, amongst others of course, were set a difficult challenge making this film, wrapping up an existing story that was intended to be told across a full television season. It is certainly not easy, but they did it. Despite the show being cancelled prematurely, I am grateful to see that Adult Swim gave this series the conclusion that it deserved, and to my knowledge, the original plans for the cancelled Season 8 were untouched. Instead, it was trimmed down to fit the runtime of an animated feature film, and as you can imagine, scaling down the content of at the very least 10 episodes is already a struggle to make that fit into the runtime of an hour and 20-something minutes. Luckily, the end result is a coherent story, but you can tell the film does struggle here and there with pacing of both high and low points. And ensuring that the ending is good enough with the high bar already set by the TV show, that is definitely a challenge in of itself, and luckily, I would say for the most part this film successfully sticks the landing. As expected, the animation is stunning, arguably the best it has ever looked. There's a lot of creative callbacks to the original series without relying on a load of flashbacks, and I also really appreciate seeing the opening titles one last time, reminiscent of the Hanna-Barbera 60s cartoon show Jonny Quest. Picking up where we left off, Hank and Dean were at odds with one another because Dean slept with his brother's girlfriend. Dr. Venture was kidnapped by the villainous Guild of Calamitous Intent. The Monarch and Henchman 21 are being initiated by the Guild, enticing their desires to become level 10 villains, and this felt like a game changer for both of them, but there's a catch for the Monarch. If he joins the Guild, he can never arch Dr. Venture again. One of the biggest reveals integral to the film is that Venture and the Monarch share the same bloodline and may actually be related. Although the characters do share similarities, I really did not see that coming. It seemed like a choice that would be maybe too on the nose and would be best to avoid. Apparently not. Luckily, the writers are capable enough to make that kind of plot thread work. The film itself begins 3 days after the events of Season 7, where a manhunt for Hank Venture is led by the family bodyguard Brock Sampson. Hank has gone off the grid following his unusual path of self-discovery, where his brother Dean is not too far behind chasing after him in order to try and make amends for the whole cheating situation. In the later seasons, I did feel as though the show's focus drifted away from the title characters, so it's refreshing to focus on them both throughout the film. And when Hank disappears at the end of Season 7, he renounces the Venture family name, and there's a lot to appreciate from the scenes of him just running away. Spending time in his psyche made for some really unique character building moments, and it's great to see his alternative personas return and try and protect him when he's at his most vulnerable, and he also uses money as a way of protecting himself thanks to the events of Seasons 5 and 6, where he is now rich, and unusually this is one of the few times he embraces the money in the series, showing that he is still somewhat grounded as a person. Speaking of money, Dr. Venture is struggling financially. He is convinced to start manufacturing some home-specific products to turn a profit for Venture Industries, which is the family business his father, Jonas Venture, started. And similar to the Amazon Alexa, he creates the Helper Pod, of course based on the family robot Helper, and it's great to see him get some appreciation throughout the show, and this seems innocent enough at first as far as the device is concerned, and it's great to see that Pete White and Billy Quizboy are helping with the project, but they reveal a slight issue with the design. When playing music, it starts to levitate, which Venture thinks of as a unique feature, and maybe even a selling point, until he is convinced otherwise.
Hey, Helper! Stop the music! That could have been a baby's head!
With the launch day already set, Venture gives his colleagues a short window of time to rectify the problem, which isn't practical and isn't going to happen. Looking away from the Venture family, there is a lot to appreciate with the villain side of this storyline, which is honestly my favourite part of the entire series. Dr. Girlfriend, now known as Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, continues to be one of the more compelling characters. I really like her role, retaining leadership qualities over the Guild, and she expresses concern about a new rival villain league known as Arch, which is taking on low-level villains and building them into serious threats. And her relationship with the Monarch is put to the test throughout the film, and I really appreciate seeing further development to his character. My only problem with the Monarch is that he keeps going back to his old roots. His main obsession is arching Dr. Venture, something the Guild is trying to stop him from actively doing, and conveniently he stumbles across his ex-girlfriend Debbie St. Simone, aka Mantilla, who turns out to be the leader of Arch. And using her persuasive methods to entice the Monarch, he joins her group instead of the Guild, where he can freely arch Venture once again. For me, Debbie was one of the best parts of the film, but I feel as though there was so much lost potential in developing her as a character. I really liked seeing her manipulation tactics in action, such as targeting the Monarch, and this makes a lot more sense when her bizarre obsession with Dr. Girlfriend is revealed later on in the story, where she looks up to her as a role model, seeking revenge on male villains for making her feel inferior. And I'd like to think there was a lot more to this, but the film method of delivery doesn't really allow for progressive developments, in the same way a TV series does, where you can go episode to episode and reveal more parts to a character. Planning his attack on Ventec Tower, Monarch takes full advantage of what Arch is offering. He's given more henchmen, a tank, but this falls apart very quickly. Once he's inside the building, the henchmen just abandon him, and at this point I genuinely felt sorry for the Monarch. It's revealed that Arch is just a fabrication designed to trap him, whilst Debbie pursues Dr. Girlfriend, and Debbie then hacks the helper pods, and with the levitating glitch that was revealed earlier, this causes the entire Ventec building to rip out of the ground and start floating into Earth's orbit. And this was easily the best scene in the entire film. Visually, the presentation and the mixture of 3D assets with the 2D animation, this made for a phenomenal scene. I really loved the overwhelming soundtrack. Plus, Brock's reaction to seeing the Venture building in midair really did crack me up.
Isn't that your house?
Holy fuck! Pilot! Follow that skyscraper!
Inside the building, we have Dr. Venture, Sergeant Hatred, Monarch, and Henchman 21, all stuck inside as it drifts closer to the Earth's atmosphere, and Billy and Pete White suggest disabling the helper pods one at a time, allowing the tower to gently lower to Earth. And showing the creative efforts behind the animation, the characters are almost killed by the gravitational field when they do try to destroy them, and I love the creativity behind this. At the worst possible time, Dr. Girlfriend convinces Debbie to stop the hack on the Venture Tower, and she agrees to give her immunity from the Guild for her villainous actions in exchange for saving the Monarch's life. But ironically, this almost kills him, where the building starts plummeting to the ground. And working together to survive, Sergeant Hatred finds an old Voltron-style robot mech suit. They use this to slow down the falling building, where it lands at the old location of the original Venture compound, and I really like this inventive throwback, bringing things full circle for the Venture family as a whole. The Monarch then accidentally ejects his part of the robot suit, and going from bad to worse, he is brutally impaled by a statue of Jonas Venture. And at this point, I honestly thought the Monarch was going to die. It felt like an ironic but fitting end for his story, where his unhealthy obsession with the Venture family finally catches up with him, and would therefore result in his demise. But bringing the film full circle, at the beginning, Dr. Girlfriend investigates the likelihood of Venture and the Monarch being related. She steals some of Venture's DNA, which confirms they do indeed share the same bloodline. And with another big reveal relating to the movie title, the Monarch is confirmed to be a clone of Dr. Venture, but was given Baboon DNA, saving him from early male pattern baldness. And this apparently enhanced his aggression, and luckily he does survive thanks to a blood transfusion from Dr. Venture himself. With all that said, I really enjoyed the conclusion of this story. Hank searches for answers about who his mother is throughout the film, but sadly doesn't find out for certain. And so he becomes trapped in his own mind, a purgatory-style world which was heavily featured in Season 7, but luckily Dr. Orpheus and Dean rescue him, and it was surprising to see how Orpheus was so heavily featured throughout this entire film. It was great to see the character, since his presence was lacking in the more recent seasons of the show, and we see Hank forgive Dean, where he shares his story about trying to find him and make amends for the actions that occurred in the previous run. And overall, the film itself does offer a lot of content. If you're a fan of the series, I would be very surprised if you were disappointed by this film. You can tell certain ideas would have likely been further developed if given the opportunity to complete the show in its entirety as originally planned. There's also a really fun post-credit scene for this film where it's revealed that Dr. Venture is technically the birth parent of the Venture Brothers. Anyhow, that's going to do it for this review, looking at the ending to the Venture Brothers. Radiant is the blood of the Baboon heart. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the Venture Brothers ending, and you can check out my other videos on the channel relating to other Adult Swim projects, such as the other movies that were released in conjunction with Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart for Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Metalocalypse. And you can also check out my DVD unboxing/review looking at the complete series set. And for more videos, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?